So what was the idea of the team was to make sure first and foremost that Prime Minister Carney and President Trump could meet, that they could have a personal relationship that is important. Why? Because we know that President Trump is the sole decider of what's going on within the U.S. administration. And therefore, that relationship is key. It was shown not only in the public through a media conference, but also afterwards through a how would say, productive conversation that is established now. They know each other. They got to spend time together. Now, the next steps are definitely to see what can be done on the trade side and on the security side. We've never done both together at once. We know we've been over-dependent on the US for too long. We know, meanwhile, that we have to be closer to the UK. We definitely have to be closer to the EU and closer to key Asian countries. And that's what we'll do. So we will have to not only bear in mind that we are in a trade war with the US and that we, of course, want to lift tariffs, but we don't want to deal with damage to our economy that would be long-lasting. So that's why we want to have a much more holistic approach. And at the same time, what we want to do is to make sure that we keep our doors open to new opportunities that we can have with Europe and with Asia that will help us make sure that we cut that over-dependency. So that's our approach. Of course, we're a new government. Of course, not all ministers have been, like the new cabinet has not been appointed. And of course, we know that being the biggest client of the U.S., we can show the world how to approach the U.S. So it's a big agenda. There's a lot of ambition. But at the same time, I think we have the right prime minister and the right team to handle it.
Okay, the president did repeat his belief that Canada will be better off as the 51st state in the public portion yesterday in the Oval Office, though he suggested it more as this is a good idea rather than this is a clear goal of his administration. I'm just wondering how you and the Prime Minister and others interpreted those comments in the public meeting, and how did that align with what was said in the private conversations? I know you probably won't give very specific details on that, but how would you broadly describe the conversations around the 51st state agenda?
I think the Prime Minister's answer was just perfect in the sense that he said, first and foremost, Canada's not for sale. And the only owners of Canada, which are Canadians, are saying clearly that is not the case. And so we will be able to negotiate, but and deal with each other as two sovereign nations, period.
But the president doesn't seem to take no for an answer there, right? He kept saying, never say never, never say never. And it was hard to tell if it was joking or serious. I mean, how did you view it based on the full meetings?
You're not the first colleague asking me, that question, but the question is, why don't you say what Prime Minister Carney said after he said never say never? Prime Minister Carney said never, never, never. So that's it. That's, Canada's not for sale. And when it comes to our sovereignty, it's not up for discussion, period. And I said that also when Marco Rubio was in Canada at the time. I said, we're proud people, hardworking people, we'll defend our sovereignty. And when you come here, you respect it, period. And what we know also is President Trump will be coming to Kananaskis in Alberta in June for the G7. So basically, the question of Canada's sovereignty is not on the table. And second, what is on the table is how can we handle a trade relationship at the time of a trade war? How can we handle a security relationship with the U.S. at a time where the U.S. has decided to not play the same role around the world, and therefore there's way much more instability in the world? And what are Canada's interests, and how can we protect jobs at home? How can prices go down? How can families be reassured? And how can ultimately we be strengthened as a country? And this is the mandate that Canadians gave us, and this is exactly the job that the Prime Minister, myself, and the government will be doing.
Do you have a sense from these conversations of the future direction of the tariffs that they've put in place? You know, whether there is a hope to get the fentanyl tariffs down, say, sometime soon, or just where these things go, the duration of those and the impact of those, you know, the longer they last, the more painful it would be. So do you have a clear sense? I know there's so many tariffs, it's difficult to keep track of them all, but of just where they may go in terms of dropping some of this, because the president is not a man who likes to back down.
Well, a couple of things on that. We have to do a job at home to make sure that we take care of our own economy, that we create at-home jobs, that we are able to invest in our own defense sector, in our own manufacturing jobs, in making sure that these very smart, intelligent, very hardworking people working in the auto sector and in the aluminum and steel sector are able not only to continue to have a job, but that their families know that they can have a job even in that sector one day if they wish to. So we need to make sure that when we have this plan in mind, and we have a very ambitious plan, that people are not living in constant anxiety, that they're reassured, that they know that their government has their back. So that's what we'll do. Of course, the throne speech will be coming. The King Charles, our sovereign, will be coming to Canada. It will be a clear marker of Canada's sovereignty. We will be able to present our plan at that point. The cabinet will be established. Let's all remember the elections happened just a week ago. We already went to meet with the President of the United States. So things are really going quickly, efficiently. And at the same time, what we'll do is we want to have an approach that is general, I would say holistic, to negotiating. And so trying to not to fall into the trap of having, lifted a tariff and another one popping up. So our goal is to make sure that we are able to have that negotiation and able to have that clear plan to create jobs at home.